Well, welcome to our webinar this evening on using Accordance Bible software. Uh, this is part two. Now, part one, Richard showed that on a Mac, and part two, he's showing on a Windows computer. So hopefully if you had any questions about what he was doing on Mac, if you're a Windows user, this will explain some of that. If you do have questions, go ahead and put those in the questions section, or if you prefer, just go ahead and click on your hand and I can unmute your mic so that you can ask the question. There is a handout in the handout section, and I'll send that again in an email after the webinar ends along with the recording. So with that, Richard, I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone to tonight or this afternoon, wherever you are at. Currently, I'm in Florida, but I'm going to leave at about 5 in the morning to head back up to Seattle driving. So anyway, but it's really good to be with you tonight and for me. And also, it was really good for me to load Accordance on a Windows machine because I've gotten so used to running it on a Mac that I had to learn things just slightly different on a Windows machine. But I thought it might be good to take you through how to use some very basic things in Accordance, especially the English Specialty Starter. That is what is recommended and available to a lot of students at Faith International University. And I see several students tonight that have logged in, so welcome, and I'm glad you're here. So tonight we're going to take a look at, we're going to do sort of a brief overview on things and kind of how it differs on Windows than it does on a Mac. I'm going to go into a few things that we didn't cover in part one, things that you can do that make your studies, I think, interesting and just things you can do on a computer you just can't do on a book. So let's get going on that right away. The first thing to note is that on a Windows machine, your pull-down menus have 90% the same things, but on a Windows machine, in order to get to things like easy install and check for the content updates, it's found under utilities. Now on a Mac, I believe it was found underneath file, but on a Windows machine, it's under utilities. You have easy install, check for content updates, check for app updates. So this is where you're going to go if you want to see if you have the latest version of Accordance, if you purchase a book or you want to install additional materials. Usually every month or so, Accordance gives away free books, and if you subscribe to their newsletter, you can get free books every month. So this is where it's found on a Windows machine underneath utilities. The other thing to be aware of is underneath the word edit, that is where you have your preferences. Or in other words, settings. Now, I installed Windows 11 onto this machine, so I do not know if Windows 10 calls it preferences or settings, but in this case, underneath edit, you have your preferences. And just a brief reminder and overview on that, you'll get a pop-up window where you can basically set your font size and everything. And like we did in the last one, just as a recap, I'm just going to show you a few. Under general, I suppress all my opening screens that I just don't want to have things popping up and saying, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? So I just say, no, let me just get right to my studies. Amplification, you have in the English Specialty Starter, the ISB. You don't have the BDAG Halat, but the verse reference, I put Treasury of Scripture Knowledge, but you might want to put something like the New Bible Commentary that you got with the English Specialty Starter or Jamieson Foster Brown. This is more modern. This is older. Jamieson Foster Brown is, but it does sort of a cultural background information on the verse you're studying, which I like. I consider it kind of a background commentary, which is really good. So you can have cross references there, or you can have a commentary there. They both have their advantages, and we might take a look at that. Appearance wise, Like I mentioned, you want to turn off your limited text width if you have it on. I have my auto scroll on a Windows as very slow. On a Mac, I turn it to very fast, and I'll show you what that means. But even on a Windows machine, very slow is still a little bit too fast for me. Workspaces, I have unlimited. Text display, a text is your Bible. Anything with the book, chapter, and verse is considered a text. So your major translations are text, but you also have things like writings of the church fathers, and in accordance, they can be tagged to Greek and Hebrew, and they can be basically a book, chapter, and verse. So anything that is not in a paragraph, well, I shouldn't say paragraph, anything that has a location that you can get to it by a book, chapter, and verse is considered a text. Normally, we would consider a text to be just Bibles, but it goes well beyond Bibles because you can have, well, I better take care of this first so that I can show you over here. But this is where you set your font size, and if you want paragraphs with white spacing, and you can set your type of font and everything within text displayed. Tool display would be like your commentaries, dictionaries, how you want them to look, what kind of font you want. Do you want to have a background color for them? The other thing that I want to draw your attention to is instant details. I usually turn on everything because I want to have everything. I don't even turn on the translator. I want to have everything giving me information down here when I'm looking at a word. Bibliographies. Now, if you're in a class, you might check with your school. Do you want to have Turabian footnoting? Do you want to, what kind of Chicago footnoting? Because when you copy into your word processor, it automatically creates a footnote down at the bottom of the page, and it automatically sequentially numbers them too, so that you get your footnoting as you're doing research. I'm going to turn that to Turabian anyway. Search tabs. I'm going to turn on all of my analytics. And this is just really quick to what we did last time. Reading and research. I like to show my library entry. I like to show in full text and hits in the browser. So those are just some of the main things that I do. You can set them all up at one time. You don't have to do one and then say, okay, do another. You set them all up. And then when you have everything set up, you can just click on okay. And it automatically will take every one of those items in that in the preferences and applies it instantly. So that was again found under Edit, and on a Windows machine it's found under File, I believe, and it's called Preferences, and that's where you can go and change. But even if you don't do it there, within the program you still have the ability through a little gear sometimes to change your preferences within a particular work. Another thing that's different on a Windows machine is that your gears, your font sizes, your interlinear is on the left side of the screen, and on a Mac, it's over here on the right side of the screen. So this is a little different as well. And so, as a matter of fact, I'm going to make my window full since I'm here anyway. Again, on a Windows machine, if I want to close or minimize, it's on the top right. On a Windows and on a Mac, it's on the top left. So that's sort of left brain, right brain, I don't know. Within the window itself, let me show you a few things within a Bible window. This here is called, well, first of all, it tells you what you're in. You're in the ESV, and this little down arrow allows you to choose and switch to whatever Bible text you want. So you can switch to a different Bible text if you don't want to, if you want to look at different ones. This here little magnifying glass here allows you to see your history of everything you've been searching, in that session. You can look up a verse. I could type in John 3:16, comma, space, Revelation 3:20, space, or comma, space, Psalms 1:1. So you can list references here, Bible references. They don't have to be in any order you want them, and separated by a comma, and they will just appear down here. So you can look at verses. You can also look for words or headings. Like these are headings. They're called pericopes, and the more modern translations, they put their pericopes or a heading, sort of like what you're going to be reading that in that paragraph above it. And it's sort of fun to look at the different forms of headings that different translation authors have used to summarize what you're about to read. This here is your address bar. This is where you type in a word, a phrase, a verse, if you want to do a search or you want to go someplace. Then over here, you have your table of contents. And so you can use that to navigate to whatever book, chapter, and verse you want to go to. So I can go to Exodus chapter 1, verse 1, and it right away goes to Exodus 1:1. The font allows you to increase font size if you hit the big A and decrease it if you hit the small a. And then you have an interlinear button. Any text that is a Strong's text, that means that if I go over a word, you'll see that it gives me the Greek or the Hebrew in this case. If I was in the New Testament, it'd be Greek, and it would give me some information on that particular word as I go through. It's a noun, common, masculine, singular, so forth. So that's what this little window down here is called, an instant detail. And it is good for not only giving you information, the morphology on a word, but also see the little A, it will tell you the cross references that are found within it. So it's sort of like a window that any link that you're in to any kind of a book or Bible, if you hover over that link, it will show up in the instant detail. You have the ability to open up an interlinear. So this is really pretty good. I can go up and actually show a full interlinear on a Strong's tagged Bible text. And let me just turn off my instant details so you can see this. So I have here, I have to make it a little smaller so we can see it. There we go. You can see the word and what goes corresponding to that particular word, the Strong's number and what part of speech it is, the syntax, and the word itself. And then you can modify this interlinear anyway. If you wanted to add translated related words, you could. If you want to add into it another Bible text underneath it, you can add a Bible text so you can see how it differs from the one up above. And you can customize it, and then you can actually go down here to the very bottom and you can save it. If you want to customize it to a certain way that you like it, you can save that as a new interlinear for yourself. But the interlinear is sort of nice if you're going to be doing some light work in word studies, or if you want to go really deep into word studies, Accordance does a really great job at that as well. So I'm going to turn that off, though we don't need to have that on. And then you also have a little gearbox, and this allows you to do things that I'm not going to go into, but if I was to make the text bigger, and then I wanted to not go up to my preferences to go down and change the size of the font, right about from here, I can make my changes, and then I can set the text pane display and then turn that into the default. So again, like I mentioned earlier, you don't have to go up to preferences in certain works. You can just hit the little gear, redo the preferences, and then save that as a default. It makes it sort of nice. You can do it on the fly. One thing that I kind of like in the program, and again on the Windows machine, is a little faster than I like. But if I wanted to read a text, sometimes, I have so many busy things. Even if I turned off my library, I still have a toolbar at the top, and I have tabs, and I just have a lot of clutter. And it's not bad. I can go through here and read the text, but Accordance also allows you to go using the gear. I can go into what is called reading mode. And what that does is it just expands out the text and eliminates my toolbar. So if I go into reading mode, now I just have the text in front of me, and I can adjust the font a little bit bigger, and I can go through here. It just makes it a nice read. It's kind of like reading in a Kindle book or something, so you don't have any other distractions. You're just looking at the text itself. And if there's something there that you want to see, you can hold your arrow over it turns into a magnifying glass and holds your left mouse button down, and it will act like the instant detail and give you the information on what that little superscript or link does. Then you also have the ability to auto scroll. Now this is going to be a little fast. I'm going to turn it on, take my hand off of the mouse, and what it does is it automatically scrolls the text. But even that's a little bit quick. That's a fast read, but it's sort of nice. On a Mac machine, it's a little slower, which I do like. So anyways, we're going to leave reading mode and get back down to here. And so this is sort of how this is laid out. Now, if I was to type in something like John 1 through 4, comma, and then put in Psalms 1 through 3, and I put a comma, and then I put Revelation 3:20, and I hit enter, it's going to pull up those in the order that I typed them in, and I can look at each of those. Now, the reason I did that is because I wanted you to see this little thing called the slider. Right now it's showing me the verse, but I can say I want to see verses after it up to a certain amount. So I want to see up to 16 or 24 verses. So the slider allows you to see more verses after it. It will highlight the one you wanted in red, but it will give you some additional, and you can go all the way up to that the whole Bible is there too. But this gives you ability to look at a certain text, the context of it by looking at the verse that precedes it and the verse that comes after it. So that's what this little slider does over here, and that's how that operates. It's nice. Now, the next thing I want to do on a Windows machine is to take a quick look at the toolbar across the top. It sets up a little bit differently than the toolbar on a Mac. On the Mac and on the Windows, to enter into the mode to customize your toolbar, you simply move your pointer onto the toolbar and you right-click your mouse. This allows you to customize the toolbar. You can add text to the icons or icons only. Currently, you see that I have text. I could just say, I just want icons only. It gives me more space, and as I move my pointer onto it, my pointer's in the way, but it does tell me what it is. So if you want to have more space up on your toolbar and have more tools up there, you can take the text off. I kind of like to have it on, so I just turn it on. Then you also have the ability to customize it, and you can move however you want your tools on here. So I'm going to say, let's customize the toolbar, and I want to tell you a few things that you need to do. So let's see that right now, let's say this thing here, web browser that I have here. Let's say I want to move it over here next to instant detail. What I need to do is I go into the current toolbar buttons. I go and I find the web browser, and then I say I want to move it up. Now watch, as I move up, watch what happens to it over here. So I'm going to move up, up, up. See it moving? I'm going to move up, 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 and I can move it to wherever I want to move it to within my toolbar. And you can add spaces and separators, to categorize them, you might say. So that's how you, and then if you want to take a space or a separator away, you can just remove it. Now, what I have found on a Windows machine, I'm not going to do it, but if I added a separator, let's say I wanted more space between library and timeline, I would go up here and I'd say, okay, highlight that. I'd say, I want to add more space between these two icons. What I found happens sometimes is that it will add, but sometimes on a Windows machine, for some reason, it would give me a duplicate icon called library. And then I would have to go and click on it and remove it. And once I removed it, then I had the separator. So just be aware that sometimes it might duplicate it, but you can customize your toolbar and move stuff around on the toolbar any way that you want to move it at any time. I'm going to leave the web browser there. No, I'm going to move it back. I kind of like my web browser back over. So to move it back over, I go down here and find where I have it. And then I say I want to move down, 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 down. And now, oh, I think I moved it there. Now I think I'm back to where it was. So that's how you can customize your toolbar on a Windows machine. So I'm going to close this out. And there we go. And back to that. The next thing that I want to draw your attention to that is important within really any Bible software is your library. But in Accordance, it's something that you really need to pay attention to. So I have my icon here, library. Now, I have a lot of books. I created a little section down here at the very bottom called the English Specialty Starter, which one of the books in the English Specialty Starter is Getting Started with Accordance, and that gives you video and stuff on how to use Accordance. And it has Bible translations. It has the Greek Textus Receptus. It has outlines of books of the Bible, which we're going to be looking. It has the ISB. And the ISB stands for the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. I believe it was done in 1915, 17, something like that. I like it. It's got 9,600 topics that it covers. Again, it's a 5-volume encyclopedia, and even though it's old, it's still really relevant, and I like the way it's written. You have commentaries in that. Then you have all of these pocket theological dictionaries, and we're going to take a look to see how they operate as well. So that's what's in that. Now, I have an extensive library, but this is what I want to tell you about a library. I'm going to close these by clicking on the X. In your library, you're going to want to, like, here's my Bibles. And you might have a lot of foreign translations. You can right click anywhere within that and you can create a folder. And then once it's created, you can name it. You can call it foreign, or you can call it modern translations or public domain translations, whatever you want. I created one called Word and Studies. And anytime you want, you can click on it and you can edit it and rename it. But you want to take whatever is your favorite translation and move it to the top of that particular category. So if I wanted to have the Holman Christian Standard Bible as my #1 Bible within the library, I highlight it, I hold down my left mouse button, and you can see I'm dragging it, and there's a line, and then when I get up here, I release it, it's now in the first position. And I would really recommend as an exercise that you take the time and get to know, for one thing, it's a good way to get to know the books in your library. But just grab a book and move it within your library, and you drop it off to where you want it. Now that's a Bible text. I've moved all my foreign Bibles. What I did was I created a folder with anything that had Strong's, but since I don't use a lot of foreign, maybe you do. Maybe you speak French or German or Spanish or something. You could move them up, but for me, I moved them all to the bottom, and I can get to them anytime I want. So you can create folders and you can organize your library. The main thing in the library, though, is when you get into your tools, your dictionaries, especially your dictionaries and commentaries. And that's where I want to just take a moment to take a look at. In your dictionaries, there are multiple types of dictionaries. Pocket dictionaries, I made a folder called Pocket. And in that, I put my Pocket dictionaries. Now, I didn't just throw them in there. I arranged them in an order. You'll see that I have apologetics and theological. Those are the two, by the way, required textbooks within overview of the Old Testament and overview of the New Testament classes that we have at Faith. Then I have things that deal with religion, new movements, world religion, denomination, and ethics. Then I have Hebrew, Greek. Pocket Reformed maybe should be more under denominations, so I'm going to move that to denominations. And you have liturgical, church history, and biblical studies. So you can reorganize your dictionaries in any way you want. As you build your library, the thing that I would say is watch for your main dictionaries. A main dictionary like the ISBE, and the ISBE Revised was done, 10 years ago. It's the same format, but it's updated materials written by completely different authors. So if you set them side by side and read for them, you'd see the same format, but you would not, you'd go, wow, they are completely different. And they're both wonderful works to have. But this one's more updated. But all of these dictionaries that I call my main all deal on biblical topics from A to Z. They're not specialized. They just give me anything I want on any particular person, place, or thing, and we'll take a look at that. Down at the bottom, you have specialties where you have things like maybe you're dealing with women in the Bible or places in the Bible or archaeological things, or there's all types of dictionaries. But I'm just telling you that initially the main kind of dictionary that is really, really good for research are your main dictionaries that deal with main topics. The largest encyclopedia next to the ISBE, which I mentioned has 9,600 topics, is the Anchor Yale Bible Dictionary. And it's also a multiple 4 or 5 volume set, but it does not have 9,600 topics. It has 6,400 topics, I believe. So you can see that the ISBE, there's no other dictionary that I've come across that covers more topics than this ISBE. While we're here, let me take a look at the ISBE. And again, what you want to do is you want to move your favorite things up to the top of each category, because that really comes into play when you're doing searches or when you're doing studies. I want to take a second though since the ISBE comes in the specialty start, I'm going to go ahead and open that up real quick and show you a little bit about what kind of things you can use a dictionary for. So let's say that I wanted to study a book of the Bible. I could go here and I could type in Genesis. Maybe. And you see that you have under A, Adam and the narrative of Genesis. You have outline of the Genesis narrative. But you see, we're still in the A's. We haven't even got to the G's because we know we'll find information on Genesis when we get to Genesis. And now we're in the book of Genesis. It gives me the name, a general survey of the contents, composition, and in general, and so forth. So you see there's a lot of things that I can do by just typing in the word Genesis. And I can search through it through multiple different types of articles throughout that 5-volume set, and not just be limited just to the one narrative of the article on Genesis. So you get more information from a variety of perspectives that gives you, I don't know, it's just sort of an interesting way to study. I like it. And so like in the class, you want to get a good overview of Genesis and so forth. So you could go right to an encyclopedia, you could go right to a dictionary, and you can instantly start to study information about the name, and it goes down. I mean, it covers the book, any book of the Bible very, very well. But you can not only have to do that with the Genesis, I could do that with a thing like Moses. I type in Moses, and I can find, normally if you had an encyclopedia, you would just look up Moses. But here we have rebels against Moses under Aaron. We have, in Deuteronomy, to what we know of Moses's time. So, and then of course, we're going to find him in Exodus, the connection with Moses. But all of these different things, just by using your table of contents and typing a topic or place, you could type in Jerusalem, you could type in Bethlehem, and you'll find a wealth of information just by typing it into the table of contents. So one thing I always look, the value of a book to me is how good its table of contents is. So because if it's a really good table of contents, I can get a wealth of information from that particular book. Now I'm going to open up my instant details again, and I can, again, remember if I move my pointer onto anything that's a link, I can read the verses in line without having to go anyplace else. So I can read Leviticus down below. I can also left click and hold my pointer down, and then I can do it that way. But the instant detail catches anything that's a link. So that's really good. Okay, now I'm going to leave the dictionary open, and I'm going to open up something else that's in your library that that is in that basic starter. Let's go ahead and open up Jamieson Fausset Brown. And what I'm going to do, you can see that here's the ISBE and here's Jamieson Fausset Brown. For this particular case, you can grab anything by a tab and you can set it any place you want, so you can have it in adjacent windows. So now I have adjacent windows, and let's go ahead and look at the table of contents here. So if I type in Genesis, of course I'm going to find a lot of stuff because it's a commentary on Genesis, right? And I can go down all the way down through it, and it's just going to be it's a commentary. It's on Genesis. What about if I type in Moses? I don't know if I'll get anything on Moses, but let's see. Nope, I don't get anything on Moses. That's because in this case, now believe it or not, some commentaries give me a lot of information, like a topical. A good illustration of that, which is something that's not in the package, but it's an affordable 2-volume commentary that is used in seminaries all over the place, is one called Bible Knowledge Commentary. And Bible Knowledge Commentary, if I open that up by comparison, and I go here to the table of contents and I type in Moses, you're going to see that it's going to find information through this commentary, all through this commentary. Let me make my window a little smaller here. Make this a little bit bigger here. All through this commentary on Moses. And I just think that's really pretty neat, because it's a commentary, but it's acting like a dictionary to some extent. So let's take a look at, though, the difference between commentaries and dictionaries. Yeah, they sometimes can do the same kind of thing. Yes, you open up the table of contents and you can maneuver to it. Every book in your library, just like every person, has a different characteristic and different skills and abilities. And even though they might be both called dictionaries, they're still going to have different characteristics. And the way to spot characteristics of a book within Accordance is to use this address bar and to use the entry, this little marker here. So we know that a dictionary was created primarily to give you information on an entry or a word. But what other characteristics can we find within a dictionary? Now, again, not all the dictionaries are going to have what the ISBE does. Some will have quite a bit less. But within the ISBE, I can do English content search. That means if I search for Moses, it doesn't have to be in the heading. It could be in the content, the body of the content. I could look for scripture. So if I wanted to type in Genesis 1:1, it would find everything that deals with Genesis 1:1 through the entire encyclopedia. I can look for transliterations, Greek content, Hebrew, bibliographies, authors, captions, and so forth. So these are the characteristics that make up this one particular dictionary. Again, not all dictionaries have transliterations or scriptures. So Accordance, what they tried to do is to take the best characteristics of that book and make it available for you to search and look up things if that book had that particular facet in its abilities. So then over here, what was a commentary? Well, commentary was created to give you information on a Bible reference. Genesis 1:1, Psalm 1:1, Luke 1:1, you know. But what are the other characteristics? In this case, in Jamieson Fausset Brown, I can look for titles, like the creation of the heavens and the earth. I can look for content. I can search for a word. So even though I didn't find Moses here, I'm going to show you how I can do it here. I can look for other additional scripture. So I can say, I want to find anything throughout this commentary that relates to Proverbs 8:22 and transliteration. So you have to know, by playing around with it, to know the characteristics of the book by opening up this little, I don't know, I call it a characteristic button. So if I went here and I looked for content and I typed in Moses, now if I do this, I find that there are 911 hits on Moses. And I can go to the next hit down and the next hit down. And so even if it wasn't in the table of content, I can still do a search and it still will act like a topical work by just switching over to content and telling this commentary, I want every place that you've talked about Moses. And I can scroll down through it, but now here's something that's really neat. I can go to the next article down, but that may not be on Moses. I can go to the next hit. But over here, you have a little gearbox again, and rather than go down here and hit next hit, I can just go to this little gearbox, and I can say, you know what, I want to show that I want to do it just by the paragraphs of where it came from, and so then there I am. Now I can just go to the next article, and the next article on Moses. So that's how you can kind of get around. Now, the dictionary gives you background information, really good background information on all the books of the Bible. Commentaries are going to do the same thing, but a little bit differently sometimes. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what this book has to say on Genesis. So it has the introduction is what I want to get to. And let me make this window full. Move this out of the way just a bit. So, oops. I got this. You don't see it, but there's a little tiny control window that I have to move around sometimes. So we have here, yeah, I don't know if this is, let me scroll up. This is just giving me background here, okay. Oh, I'm still on Moses, that's why. So this is giving me background information. It's good. It's giving me a straight commentary, but I'm going to have to go over here. I'm going to open up the other one that comes in that package just to show you the difference. It's more modern, and it is the New Bible Commentary. And now if I go to Genesis, what it's going to do for me is it's going to give me an introduction to Genesis, which in more modern translations do that. It tells me about the title, the place and the contents of the book, the Genesis in history, and keep going down. There's a lot. So it does a good thing. It talks about the authorship of the book, the theology in the book. So if you were to do an overview of a book of the Bible, you're going to get a lot of good information here that will help you with that. And so there's just a lot there. So let me see if there's, and then it has an outline. I really like outlines. Outlines are like a flyover. It tells you the main things that you're going to be seeing as you're flying over from 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 feet of that particular book, the highlights of that. The thing that surprises me is that in Genesis, a lot of people know God creates man, Adam and Eve, and then that man falls, but that's where they sort of think that Genesis ends. But that's only up through chapter 10 and a half or 11. From 11 on, it's about the story of Abraham, all the way through chapter 60. So only 10, 11 chapters deal with the creation and some really amazing accounts of like Noah and such, but nearly 50 chapters deal with God creating a nation of people for himself through Abraham. And I think, I mean, through chapter 50, isn't it? 48? No, 50. It's 50. So, so anyway, that's kind of what commentaries are good for too. They give you a good overview of a book of the Bible, and then they give you commentary on that particular. Commentary sometimes will have a slant. And there's a paper that I have that I'll try to find. If you want it, let me know. I pulled it off of the internet. There's a couple different articles that dealt with commentaries, whether they were conservative or liberal, technical or practical, and it sort of gave a rating to them. And I sort of put that together in one big file for people to look at. They hit probably 50% of the 60% of the main commentaries that people use today. It might be helpful. If you're interested in that, let me know, and I'll see if I can get that to you. So that's how that works. Then the next thing I want to go back to the Bible though real quick, and open that up. When you're in the Bible, and let's go ahead and go to let's go to Daniel. If you're in the Bible, you can over here. I'm going to turn off the info pane. I'm going to turn off my instant details. You have a thing called add parallel. And the add parallel allows you to either add the info pane on, or since I had the new Bible commentary, I could do that. I could add the King James in so that now I have two Bibles, and as I scroll, they stay synchronized with each other. I'm going to turn my library off so we can see this. I can go back up to the parallel. I could add in the new Bible commentary so that it also stays in sync with whatever I'm looking at. I could also add in, let's say I wanted to add in an outline. I could add in just the outlines that comes in that package. And so I can get a good overview of Daniel as well with an outline, a commentary, and two Bibles. And you can arrange these different ways on your screen. I could have the commentary. I think I can move it down. Can I move it down? Let me see if I can move it down this way. Yeah. So you can right click. I'm going to do this one. Let's do this one. Right click and say move down. And now I have 4 panes and they all scroll together. So you can set up your desktop however you want to. You can have your Bibles on top, commentaries on the bottom. You can readjust the size of them. If you want to readjust the size. And sort of a nice way to study. So you have everything in front of you at once. Then sometimes what you want to do is you want to say, you know what, I like what I'm doing here. I want to be able to save this as a desktop, because sometimes you're in a particular book and you have a lot of things that you have that you want to remember and not have to, you know, that you want to use that desktop for multiple things in the future. It's called a workspace. You can go up here to your workspaces and you can, in this case, it's on, I don't think on a Mac, I think on a Mac you can just, it says new. I think on a Windows machine, I have to go up here and say file, and I can say save as, so it's going to save this workspace, and I'm going to say, what do you want to call it? I'm going to call it, I'm going to call it book overview, and then I can say save. And now it's called Book Overview. See that it renamed this workspace Book Overview. So if I went to a different workspace, let's say I went to a research workspace. Yes. Did it go? Did it open behind me? It might have. Let's do. Huh. see where it's, open anything behind me? I don't know where let's go my English studies. There we go. So this is one that was, I don't know what this was, but it's called English Studies. But I don't have to worry that the one that I just created called Book Overview is still there for me to get to. I can either go up here to File and I can go to Open or Workspace, or I should be able to just click over here and go to my, what happened to my Bible Book Overview? Let's see here, File, Open Workspace. Huh.
It should list them in your library as well.
It didn't though.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm thinking that if for some reason it didn't save it. Yeah, it didn't save it. Well, that's okay that it didn't save it, I think, because all I have to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say File, and I'm going to open up a session that we did just a few minutes ago. That's not, Accordance keeps track of all of the things that you've been doing. Well, yep, open the same thing. Huh, well, I don't know why it didn't save it. Oh, there it is. So there's my book overview. Maybe it just had to get caught up. Well, anyway, there it is. And let's see if it shows up now. No, but at least it's here. Add current workspace. Save. Yes. It should be there now. Yep, there it is. Okay. Sometimes it's a little finicky. I don't know why. But so that's a little bit. You can create workspaces. You have your dictionaries and so forth. I wanted to also show just briefly something else. I'm going to close these out. In the library again, I'm going to go down to the bottom. The pocket dictionaries. I want to just take a second to show you a little bit on those and how they work. So I'm going to open up this Pocket Theological Dictionary, and again, I like it better than a book or better than Kindle, because if I had to look up a term, I could just simply go into my dictionary and type in omnipresent, and I can find it right through here and go this route. I don't have to be turning pages. I can just type it into my table of contents and find anything I want. But you can also go through it just like this. The nice thing again within having it like this is I can open up the instant detail, and anything that's hot linked, I don't have to turn pages. I can see right off the bat what it has to say on that particular topic by just moving my pointer over the top of it. So that is a nice thing. Then if I wanted to take this and highlight it, let's say I wanted to readjust it or rewrite this, or I was using it for a paper, I can right click and I can copy that with citation. I can go into a word processor. I don't think I have a word processor though on here. But you could go into a word processor, and what would happen is that it would automatically put the footnoting that it came from the Pocket Theological Dictionary, IVP, the year, and all the information about it. So you'd have this, but it would give you the page number, and it would italicize the name of the book and take you to the article. So yeah, you can copy with citation, which is really nice. One person wanted to know about, and I'm going to see if it'll work. Since I've copied it, on a Windows machine, there's a thing called Natural Voice that you can get through the store, and it's free. And all you do is you just take something, and you paste it into here, and then I don't know if you can hear this. We'll see if you can hear it. Linda, if you can't hear, let me know. But I pasted this in, and
Alexandrian school. So
Yes.
called for its origin in the city of Alexandria, this Christian center of scholarship was led first by Clement of Alexandria in AD 190 and then by Origen in AD 20.
So anyway, that's a free program that you can copy and paste things into from Accordance, and it will read it to you. You can change the voices and such, and that's sort of a nice thing to be able to do as well. So again, in your library, make sure that you get to know your books, get to know the characteristics of that particular book, because that will help you understand how to use it in various ways. And then organize your library to moving your favorite books up to the top of each category. And because those will be the first ones always that will give you information right at the top when you're going to study. So yeah, organize your library. It's better to start organizing when you have a small library, because as your library grows, it becomes more difficult to figure out where you want to place things. So anyway, do that, get to know the characteristics, use your table of contents within your dictionaries and your commentaries, look at the outlines and look at the information. If you're doing a book study, look at the outlines on that book, look at the commentary and its background information on the book, look at the dictionaries and the information that it has on that book, and it will really be helpful for you. You can, when you're in the program too, open up a Bible again. You can also open up parallel Bibles. You have this little info pane, and even if you didn't have a lot of commentaries, your cross references would show up, your topics would show up, and so whatever is your dictionary, in this case is the ISB, it gives me right off the bat. And no matter what book I go to or where I go in this passage, or if I go to a different book entirely, the info pane stays right with you and gives you instant information that relates directly to the verse or to that book for you to immediately look up. A text, word lists, if you have study Bibles, you won't, but it gives you a lot of really good information instantly in an info pane. That's what it's for, and it's very, very quick. So sometimes that's a really good way just to do a quick study on a passage as well. And then you can turn that off, but you can also then add your parallels on, where you add in additional translations or commentaries. So be aware of that too. Highlighting, it's a highlighting tool. If you, just like you highlight, you've seen that you can highlight something. The minute you highlight, you get a little palette, and you can choose a color to highlight stuff in, or you can actually put symbols underneath words. So you can go however you want to go on that particular item. And then you can erase stuff too. Over to the side, if you're on a verse, you're going to see that you have notes. So if you want to go over to the side, you want to add a note, it'll turn to a plus sign. And it's like writing a Bible note alongside of your Bible, and it's like writing a note in your margins of your Bible. You can have, but unlimited amounts of notes. So you can create one for the ESV, one for King James, and you can link them together, and you can create notes all over the place. So Bible notes are nice, highlighting's nice. Web browser is where I created a little folder. Again, I can be glad to take people and send it out to you. I created one called a user tool, I believe it's called, and it's called Web Browser Favorite Links. And from within here, I can go to different websites. The nice thing about the websites are that if you're in here, even though I'm on the internet, I can access my library to any word that I find within this internet web window. So if I wanted information on atheists, I could right click on that and I could do, no, it's not going to work on that one, is it? We try something else. On most of them, I should say, if you're at a word or something, you should be able to just right click. Oh my goodness, Linda, what's going on here?
Well, Bert says you need to select the word.
I did. Copy, link, inspect. Huh.
Double click on the word to select it.
I did. It's not doing it. On a Mac, it will let you use your library. I've got to find out why it doesn't let me do that here. Huh. Maybe it's a Windows 11 thing. But yeah, on a Mac, you should be able to use right click on any word and be able to immediately do a search through your library for that particular word.
And Bert says you actually have to select the word, not just right click on it.
Okay, so let's see. Let me try something else here. So you have to highlight the word?
Mm-hmm. Double click to select it, then right click.
Nope. I think it's a Windows 11 thing.
Maybe so.
Yeah, it's not working. One last thing I want to show you. Did I show you last time about the question marks? If I didn't, let me just go ahead and do that really quick. A couple of little things here that are just fun. I did. Okay.
But you can, I mean.
Yeah, so if I wanted to find all the questions in the Bible, I hit a period and a question mark. A period means that I'll find anything that follows, any symbol that follows. I hit enter. And I get all the questions in the ESV, it's 330. If I want all the questions that surround Jesus, I just go back up here. I go up to my search, and I'm going to enter a command, the and command, and I type in Jesus. And now I find just questions that deal with either Jesus being asked or that he asks. And so some fun things you can do in the program. We have the research button up here. This is sort of nice because as you get more stuff, if I wanted to find things that deal with figs or pictures of Jerusalem, I can choose. As a matter of fact, I want to do this. I want English and I want graphic tools. I'm going to start over here. And then it will go through and find anything that has a picture of fig trees, good figs, bad figs, whatever. And so you can do olive trees, or you can do ships, or you can do coins, or you can do Jerusalem, or you can, anything that might have an image that you want to use in teaching. You can go through and find captions if you have those information from that particular book. So, and then the other thing I wanted to show you is, like, if you wanted to study a verse, I could study a word, but if I want to study verse, I have to select verse, and I would want to select something like, I'm going to do dictionaries and what I wanted to do is I wanted to equal John 1 through 3. You don't want to put a big number in there. If I just put John 1 through 3, it'd find anything that deals with the book of John, anything that deals with John 1 through chapter 5. But I want to really limit it to just a couple of verses in John chapter 1. So you put an equal sign. That means it has to equal within that parameter. It can't go outside of that parameter. And then you hit enter, and it'll only find information that has, verse 1, 2, or 3 of John incorporated throughout all your books that you have in your library. Or in this case, I search my dictionaries or my commentaries. So, and you can add one into it as well. So I could hold my shift key down and I could say I want dictionaries and commentaries, and then do a search. And now it's going to find those different categories. I'll have both commentaries here, and I should have dictionaries as well. Oh, it didn't get it, did it?
We do have a question.
Yeah, there you go.
Will Accordance speak the text on a Windows computer, on a PC?
No, that's why I had to use that natural speaker. I had to copy it and paste it into that
Okay.
natural reader that I found under the store.
Are there any plans to do that?
Yeah, there's plans. They need to update the Windows a little bit more. It's been on the programming planning for a couple years. So I just don't know. I don't know what they're doing with that.
There's another question. If I want to copy from a red letter Bible to Word, is Accordance going to allow the color coding so that the red lettering will show?
Linda, do you know on that one?
And do you mean in notes?
Yeah, so like here Jesus, but see, I don't have, if I copy that, I don't have a word processor on my Windows machine. So I don't know.
Well, I'm thinking she's copying into the Bible notes. Is that correct? To copying it into the Bible notes window?
Yeah, in the Bible notes window, it won't keep the red letter.
You would have to use a highlighter. You could highlight it. It's not going to do the font in red.
No, it won't.
Sharon says you can use Google Docs if you don't have Word.
Yeah. Yeah, on this machine, I haven't set it up for hardly anything, so I don't know. I do know that I can also, sometimes if I highlight it, not that you want to do this, but I can highlight it and I can where's print? I can print the selection and I can print it as a PDF. And if I print it as a PDF, it does keep all of the color with it.
The highlights?
Yeah. If I print it as a PDF and save it as a PDF, it keeps the color highlighting.
Okay. So Pat, are you asking if you copy from a red letter Bible to Word and then bring it into Accordance into your notes? Are you asking if the color coding shows the red letters of where the font is actually red lettering? And Richard, you might open the notes window.
I did.
Okay, and
you can't do any highlighting in here, Linda.
Oh, you can open an actual notes separate window, not as a parallel.
I know I did. So I went down here, added a note. Okay.
Yeah. See, you can
make the font a color, but you can't highlight.
Okay, so you can make a font a color. So if you copy and paste something in there, in that, you should be able to keep that font color then, right?
I don't think so. I think you have to highlight it. If I copy and pasted something into there and did a copy and then I pasted in here, it doesn't keep it.
But you could color it. Yeah, it's not going to keep.
You'd have to manually color it.
Yeah, you'd have to. Okay, I guess. Sharon says when she when she does that and prints the selection, it prints out way too large
Yeah.
and only a small section, and it doesn't come out as one document.
Okay. Huh.